Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is like the third time I have recorded or pre-recorded this podcast. Hopefully the YouTube channel and everything else is deleting the bloopers. I'm a little bit unusually nervous this morning as I've become a sponsored podcaster. So this is so weird. How your nerves get to you. But I titled this podcast this morning, My Life Well is Peace. My life well as in a fountain is peace. And so I would like to welcome you to Thursday. I'm your host, Zappora Camper. And as you know, this week has been quite hectic for me. And I just woke up earlier to record this podcast before I go to work because, a few hours from now, everything's going to be a little bit chaotic. Mornings are a little bit rushed for me as I'm training for one of my jobs. So, my life well is peace. When peace like a river attended my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. 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 Okay, so forgive the raspiness of my voice. As you know, my voice is not awake yet. I'm awake, but my voice is not awake yet. So the title of this podcast is My Life Well is Peace. One of my most fondest memories is when I became a mother. My daughter was about 3 months old. I was at my sister's house in New York City. And in the wee hours of the morning, my daughter was up, and it had to be about 4 o'clock in the morning. I was in my sister's guest room. I was sitting at her desk in her business chair. I had my legs up on her couch, and my daughter was like straddled on my lap. And at this time, I was feeling melancholy because I had just become a mom. Not only did I just become a mom, I took on more responsibility as a mother. I also became a single mother. And so it was a bittersweet moment for me. It was a bittersweet time in my life. And so I had so many questions for God, and it was a little bit stressful. It was a point in my life where I was just full of questions. And so in the wee hours of the morning, actually approximately around this time, I sang, "It is well." And as I began to sing, my daughter began to coo, and she began to imitate the sound. And the most tranquil, peace and serenity came over me because I realized that no matter how much or how difficult this situation was, I wasn't going to give up. I wasn't going to cower down. I was going to rise to the occasion, not only as a mom, but as an individual. I was going to conquer being a single mother. And I wasn't going to pity myself or feel sorry for myself or play the victim because this is a choice that I made. And in love, sometimes we gamble, and the end result is it doesn't quite pan out how our imagination and our heart desires. Sometimes we lose. I have a song that I wrote and I'm probably going to record next year. And so it's along the lines of that. But this moment, that moment transformed my life because I had someone to live for. I had someone to breathe for. I had someone that loved me unconditionally, despite the adversities, and I was unsure. And I wasn't used to being unsure because to me, unsure meant unprepared. To me, my future was mapped out on a blueprint, but I had this, to me at the time, it felt like a roadblock. But I had people speak to me, random people prophesy to me. When my daughter was a newborn, I walked into a restaurant and we sat down and there was a strange man, asking to see my child. She was like 3 days old. My daughter was born in the wintertime, so it was really bitter cold. I was also dealing with the grief of my grandmother. I had just lost my grandmother 5 months prior. So actually 4 months prior, because when I was 5 months pregnant, my grandmother passed away. And the one person that was like a matriarch of our family basically passed away, and it broke me. But I couldn't cry because I was high risk pregnant. And so I thought that I was going to, have a miscarriage. And so there was all these thoughts circulating through my mind. And when my daughter was born, it was a critical time in my life because I had just finished college. I became a single mother. I didn't know how I was going to make it financially. And these thoughts were circulating through my mind when she was born. Like, I couldn't really enjoy the beauty of being a mother because I was so focused on the next moment, the backup plan. What's next? How am I going to provide? How am I going to do this? And so, but when I was 3 months pregnant, someone prophesied that I wouldn't have to worry about anything because God was going to provide. But then there was still that level of doubt inside my head. And so, fast forward to the 2 weeks after she was born, when we walked into a restaurant, it was me, my brother, and my sister, and my mom. And we had just begun to grieve over the loss of my grandmother, because when my daughter was born, she looked just like my grandmother. And so we walk into this restaurant and a strange man comes up to me. He says, "Can I see your baby?" And I was like, no, she's newborn. Back away. So he was really, really close. He had no proximal space between us. It was literally like if he stepped one more step, he would have been on top of me. And so I was uncomfortable because I was very protective. This is something that God entrusted in me. My daughter was a gift to me, and this was something God entrusted in me to protect. And so as a result, I was very protective. And so he comes up and he says, "No, I'm not creepy or anything like that." And like that makes it less creepy when somebody says, "Oh, I'm not creepy," or, "Oh, I don't mean to offend you," and then they offend you. Or "must be nice." As I learned in training yesterday, that "must be nice" is very sarcastic remark for, I really don't like the fact that you're doing what you're doing. I don't appreciate it. Like, it must be nice that you're living your best life. But anywho, so he was like, I'm not creepy. And I was like, no, you're not going to see my baby. I had her covered up. And so he's like, I just want to see her. I just want to be blessed by her. And then I like hesitantly removed the cover a little bit, and he saw like a peach fuzz of hair, and he's like, oh, she's so beautiful. Oh, she's so beautiful. So then I felt weird after that. He turns around. He goes to walk out. He said, your baby is blessed. Before he exits the door, he turns around and he said, thank you for blessing me with this gift. And I was looking at him like, he said, your baby's a gift from God, and don't you ever forget it. And at the time, I didn't have money to pay for the meal. I didn't even know how. They were just like, let's go out. You know, your new mom, this first date, baby's first day out. Everybody had money except me. And so I was like, oh my God, I don't have money. I don't feel like asking anybody. And the anxiety began to build as we ordered. And so I was like, maybe I'll order something little and hopefully it'll go through my credit card or whatever. So I was really, really like disturbed by not having enough, going from having more than enough to having not enough. So living in a financial deficit, because at the time, you know, before my daughter was born, I had like, you know, my finances were stable, but adding an extra person to my finances, like kind of like was a deficit in a sense, because, you know, not to say that my daughter's a deficit, because she's not. I have more than enough now, but at the time I just didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't know how I was going to raise her, how I was going to provide for her. And this guy comes up and he wants to see my baby, and I was weirded out by it. I'm very a stickler on boundaries and personal space. And so at that moment, I showed him quickly a flash, and then he goes to walk out, and we had already ordered and everything. He goes and he says, you know what? I want to thank you for blessing me with this gift. Thank you for showing me your baby. She's a gift from God. Don't you ever forget it. He puts $100 bill on the table, and our bill came out to $104.15. $104.15. I will never forget that moment. The reason why I'm saying this is my life well is peace. Back to our main thought. My life well is peace because I have never had to worry how, after my daughter was born, I never had to worry how God was going to come through for me and how he was going to provide. And there are countless miracles that I could tell you about. Things where I was down to my last diaper and I thought it, and somebody dropped a box of diapers in front of my house and I didn't know where they came from. And so it was like the stuff that I could tell you. Or the time when I was on the bridge and I was thinking about diapers, and my daughter was literally, the diaper that she was sitting in was full and I had no more money for diapers. And my mother said, you know, God told me to pick this up for you. And it was a month of diapers. And I would go in my room, I would fall to my knees and I would cry because I was like, your word is truly true, you know? And so the happiest portion of my life was when my daughter was born, but also the darkest portion of my life was when my daughter was born, because my grandmother passed away. The one person that believed in my music, believed in everything that I did. She was the number one fan. She was a Zappora supporter. And I got to do more after she had passed. And which propelled me. When she passed, it propelled me to change my thinking and live in peace. And, you know, and I forgot that. I forgot the peace that I sought after. And until I went to Africa, West Africa, Ghana, back in 2016, and I felt